Hi, welcome back. So we're in basic cryptography, welcome. And we're going to explore a kind of cryptography called steganography. Now, steganography doesn't just encrypt a message, but it actually hides the message too. What we can do is we can use a common file, like an image file, maybe something you find on a website, and encrypt data and then embed it inside that file so that unless you examine it very carefully, you won't even know that there's a payload there. Um, so it's a really convenient way of maybe distributing information, hiding it in plain sight, and then we can use up to 3 different passwords on this to really obscure the meeting, to hide the data, and also to provide a level of control. So maybe you want to say hide passwords or account numbers and keep those in a safe location and only give 3 different people those passwords, and each one has just one password, so it will take the agreement of all 3 of those parties to make that, or to decrypt or to extract the data. So it's kind of a fun lab. Let's get started. Now, in your book, there's a website. If you use your browser, you go to OpenPuff Steganography, open up the home page and download that steganography program. You do not have to purchase it. It's for free. They are asking for donations, but don't feel like you have to pay for it at this point. So you're going to get that zip file, and then you'll extract the files that it contains to another folder. It's got a help file in there in English and Italian, and the OpenPuff application. It's standalone. There's no installation involved. And so go ahead and run that program, and we're going to open that up. And it comes up with a little interface window like this. So we're going to need 3 things to make this happen, to make this work. First thing we're going to need is to create the carrier file, which is an image. So we're going to use a screenshot of the OpenPuff interface as that payload. You can use any file that you want. I can tell you if the file's too small or if it doesn't have enough room inside of it, you may not be successful. So if you follow these directions, you should do okay. I shouldn't have any problems. So that's the first thing we're going to do. The second thing is we're going to create the data itself and get it ready to go. And then we'll get it, and then we'll stuff the data inside the file and encrypt it and hide it. And then once we're done with that, then we're going to check it. We're going to unencrypt it, make sure that the payload's still extractable, and then you can submit that with your passwords. So first thing I want to suggest is that you create a folder that contains those files. That way they don't get lost on your desktop. I created this IS81 steganography folder, and I'll open it up here, and you notice it's empty right now, and so that's the folder we're going to work with. So let's go ahead and create that carrier file first. What I'm going to do is come over here, and this is the file that I want to just create a screenshot of. And so I'm going to use Windows Snipping Tool to do that. It's easy. You can use any package you want, but I recommend using Windows Snipping Tool for this and follow these directions, because if you're off just a little bit, it could create some frustration for you. Okay, so I'm going to find my Windows Snipping Tool and launch that. And I'm going to change the mode, and I'm going to use a Windows Snip mode. And then I want to make sure that I highlight the OpenPuff steganography window, and that'll give me my screenshot. I don't have to go drawing any boxes or anything. And then I want to save this. So I want to click File and Save As. Make sure that we're using the PNG format. If you use the GIF or JPEG format, it may not be big enough to carry even the small payload that we're creating. So now I want to change this. The book says to use OpenPuff underscore screenshot as your file name. I'm going to ask that you add your last name too. Reason is I will be downloading these and trying to extract files, and they're constantly going to be overwritten if you use the same file name. So make sure you use that. Add your last name to it as well. Make sure that you're in the the Steganography folder that you're working with. Just go ahead and drop it in there and click Save. And notice that I have this file that's created in the IS81 folder now. Okay, so we've created our carrier file. I'm going to go ahead and close the snipping tool. Next thing I want to do, let's create a message. So I'm going to right click inside my working folder here. I'm going to click New and select Text Document. And it's going to create this new text document, and I'm just going to call this Secret Message and then put my last name. Okay. Go ahead and open that message up and then type your name in here. You can type a message, hi, and I actually have a, I'm going to use a little ASCII text art to encrypt in here. I want to make sure I keep this message real short, so maybe I'll get rid of that hi and just have my name in this message, this image. Okay, so I've got that in there, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Save. Okay, and then click X to close that out. Now I want to do one more thing. If I hover over this right now, it tells me down at the bottom of the window that's 353 bytes long, which doesn't seem like a lot. It's almost nothing in the grand scheme of things. I want to make it smaller though. So I'm going to put this into a zip file. So right click on that file, and we're going to send this to a compressed or zipped folder. All you have to do is right click, hit send to compressed folder, and it creates a zip file with the message in it. That's actually going to be our payload. Okay, so I've got this payload here. It's ready to go. I have my carrier file. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my OpenPuff interface and click Hide. And then I'm going to create this file. So the first thing I want to do, I want to make sure that I have my password. So I created 3 passwords that I'm going to use. The first one is the A, the second is the B, and the third is the C password. Right up here, I've got these in block 1. It's asking me for 2 cryptography passwords and a third password for scrambling. This will be super secure. So I'm going to just copy and paste. Notice they're kind of secure passwords. There are sort of some dictionary words in there, but there's substitution, and with the numbers and alternate characters, they'll be very, very secure. Okay, so the passwords check. What this is doing is it's using a Hamming function, and it's comparing the A and the B, the A and the C, and the B and the C passwords. And it's just checking to see how closely related they are or how different they are. So we've got a fair amount of difference. It passes the check, and now we can move on to block 2. Block 2 is where we specify the data that we're going to carry. The maximum is 256 megabytes, but to do that, we're going to need some really big carrier files. We're not going to do that today. I'm going to browse, go to my browse to my Steganography folder and find that secret message zip file, and it's very, very small. Now notice the name and the data both count. Okay, so we want to keep that, even the file name, fairly short. 241 bytes for the file, plus 26 for the name, plus 10 more bytes. Okay, so that's going to be, what, 278 bytes total. Now I'm going to come down here to block 3 and select the carrier file. So I'm going to click the Add button, and it's going to give me a file dialog box. And I'm going to be, again, in the IS81 Steganography folder, whichever one you're working with. I'm going to find that PNG file and click Open. And my my block down here, the selected and total block, turns green. It means I'm good to go. Okay, on part 4, block 4, have different options for different file formats. Don't touch anything here. If we're going to use, say I want to change the amount of, or the percentage of a file that I can use, I can use more file, but that's going to make it more obvious that there's some data packed into this file. It's bigger than it should be. So that's how I might detect if a file is changed or not. I can compare an original file to another file that's on a website, and if the sizes aren't quite right, that means there's a payload on board, and then I can start snooping around to try to find it. I'm not going to do that in this case. We don't want to touch anything in section 4, but as long as I've got these 2 green blocks here, I've got my data, I can go ahead and in the lower right corner, I'm going to click the Hide Data button. Okay, and it's going to ask me where to put this. I'm going to put this on the Steganography folder. Click OK. And it's giving a problem, probably because I have that same file in there already. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this on my desktop. Actually, instead of doing that, I'm going to click inside here. And I'm not going to be able to do it, so we'll go ahead and put that on the desktop. Click OK, and it's going to hide that file in there now. It's hiding that, and then I'll come over. Of course, you may not be able to see this because I'm on another screen, but I'm going to find that file and drag it over here. And here I have it on my image. Okay, so now if I compare the sizes, this one here, this file is, if I look at the properties, the original file is 38.4K. It uses 40K of disk space. If I do the properties on the new file that I've created, it's 98.7K and 100K on the disk. I've added quite a bit to that file. I've more than doubled its size. So if you were looking for steganography, one thing you can do is compare original file sizes to suspected files and see if those file sizes are different. Now, one thing to bear in mind is image files can be compressed, and the differences might be a little bit lower resolution or a little bit lower size. So it's very difficult to determine the difference. Okay, so I know I have this file that's a little bit bigger. I know that's the one that I want to want to carry my payload. So now the next thing I have to do is I want to go ahead and I'm going to create a new folder and bring this over here, and I'm going to say, I'll just call this an unencrypt folder. This is where I'm going to spit out the unencrypted information. That way you can see what's going on. So I'm going to put this into the unencrypt folder because I want to unencrypt from there. Here's that folder. Oops. That's certainly not the one I want. Here we go. There we go. Okay, here's my unencrypt folder. There's the 98.7K folder or file. And so I've got this huge, much bigger file here. I want to go ahead and unencrypt it now. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, go back to the main interface for OpenPuff, and I'm going to unhide. Okay, so this is how I check my file. First thing I want to do is add a carrier. That's the carrier that I'm going to use. I'm going to go back up here to my desktop. I'm going to go to the unencrypt file and select OpenPuff. Okay, now I've added that to my carrier selection. I'm going to go back to block 1. I'm going to put my passwords in. Bear in mind, I have to do this exactly. So my A password has to match the A password, the B password matches B, and the C password is There. Okay. So now the password checks are good. All that means is, yeah, they look like they're probably okay. It doesn't mean that they're the correct ones. Okay, I've got that done. I don't have to do any bit selection options over here. I'm just going to go ahead and select on hide. And it's going to ask me where do I want to put that file. I'm going to put that into the unencrypt file. Put that over there. And notice now I have a zip file that looks exactly like the one that's up here. So if I right click on it, do properties, the file size 241 bytes. If I right click this one, property size 241 bytes, exactly the same size. If I open it up, here's my message, and I open that up again, and it's the same message. So I've added data to a image, I've hidden it and encrypted it, and then I've taken that image that contains that payload and that carrier image, if you will, and I've unencrypted it and then extracted the data. Okay. Once you do that, here's what I need from you. I need you to upload not the original, but the carrier file. I need the carrier file that contains the data. I also need these 3 passwords. Okay, so give me those 3 passwords in order. You might even put A, B, C right next to them. And don't just send me a screenshot of those, because I hate having to type all those, and it'll be frustrating. And if I get frustrated, I may just say, yeah, you know what, it's a 0. Probably. So help me out here. Anyway, if you have any questions, you know how to get in touch with me. And until next time, good luck.